सुने विज्ञान की अनकही कहानियाँ। आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनसुनी कहानियाँ। एक नई दुनिया की आवाज आपकी आवाज, विज्ञान की आवाज, की आवाज।
Celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we bring you a podcast series on STEM popularization, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine, supported and catalyzed by the National Council for Science and Technology Communication, Government of India. This program is produced by Media for Community Foundation. Creative content and technical support is given by Radioactive Community Radio, Bengaluru.
एक नई दुनिया की आवाज आपकी आवाज, विज्ञान की आवाज, की आवाज, की आवाज।
Latest information on STEM popularization.
Indian scientists find efficient way to quantify quantum entanglement in higher dimensional systems. Experiments on the quantum entanglement where several particles behave like a single unit even when they are separated, which received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2022, has seen a major achievement by Indian scientists who have found a simpler way to quantify the amount of entanglement in higher dimensional systems. The study could help potentially enable better assessment of the efficacy of an entangled state for technological applications like quantum teleportation, a technique where transferring quantum information from a sender at one location to a receiver some distance away, where the success and the accuracy of the process depends on the amount of entanglement as well as other quantum communication protocols. The scientists from Raman Research Institute, an autonomous institute of the Department of Science and Technology, in a collaborative effort with scientists from the Institute for Quantum Computing, Canada, have formulated analytical relations between statistical correlations measures and known entanglement measures for any arbitrary dimension. By using just two sets of measurements, they have experimentally quantified the amount of entanglement in a pair of three-dimensional photonic quadrates at the Quantum Information and Computing Lab at RRI, headed by Professor Urbasi Sinha. Their research, published in the journal Quantum Science and Technology, gives a more experimentally friendly and less cumbersome alternative to QST. It explores the percentage of deviation in entanglement of the given state from the maximally 100% entangled state as quantified by two different entanglement measures. For the first time, it experimentally demonstrates this non-equivalence between different measures of entanglement in higher dimensional quantum state. The results can usher in a line of studies which can aim to shed light not only on deeper understanding of how entanglement is to be quantified, but also on how to better assess the efficacy of an entangled state for a given technological application. The central technological importance of the research rests in the context of quantum entanglement embedded. The central technological importance of the research rests in the context of the quantum entanglement enabled information processing, quantum computing, and quantum communication protocols, which lie at the heart of 21st century quantum technologies. For applications in quantum teleportation and remote state preparation, the fidelity of the process depends on the amount of entanglement given by the relevant entanglement measures. Hence, given any experimentally prepared entangled state, an priori assessment of how much entangled the state is critically helpful. It is precisely this requirement which is addressed in this research. New technology of corrosion resistant nickel alloy coating can replace toxic chrome plating. A new method of depositing of the nickel alloy coatings on high performance materials in engineering application can replace environmentally toxic chrome coatings. The coatings obtained are also highly corrosional resistant and useful for the plastic ware industry. With over increasing demand for high performance materials in engineering applications, nano crystalline coatings can cater to the need for the replacement of environmental hazards chrome coatings. Chrome coatings have been used in plastic bottling industry to improve the service life of casting components. However, chrome plasting is a toxic process and the stringent standard permissible exposure limit for toxic hexylvent chromium and all its compounds has to be compiled in all chrome plating industrial workplaces. Finding a procedure for adhering to this limit is a challenge for scientists. Scientists at the Center for Engineering Coatings at International Advanced Research Center for the Powder Metallurgy and New Materials, an autonomous research and development center and the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India has developed a lab scale process to deposit novel nanostructured nickel alloy coatings. The process uses pulsed current electroplasting, which is environmentally benign with high performance capacity. In contrast to conventional direct current used for chrome plating, the research group led by Dr. Nitin P. Waseka at the ARCI has used electric current in the form of pulses of duration of a few milliseconds for electroplasting purpose. The process consists of environmental friendly electrolyte consisting of nickel and tungsten ions that is the source of strengthening elemental tungsten and nickel. The pulsed current is applied between the components to be coated, acting as a cathode, non-consumable anode.
Now, our next segment is Analyst in STEM.
Today we are with Dr. Achira Roy, Professor Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, Bengaluru.
I am Dr. Achira Roy. I am an assistant professor in the neuroscience unit JNCASR. And as per my training, I have done my PhD in TIFR Mumbai, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, in developmental neurobiology. And after that, I had wanted to do something close to the clinical aspect of neurobiology. So I moved to Seattle Children's Hospital and Research Institute in United States, and there I was introduced to pediatric disorders. And currently in my own lab, the neurodevelopment laboratory at JNCASR, I also work on how to find the potential therapeutics behind certain spectrum of pediatric disorders related to brain development.
Okay. So could you please brief about the area of research that you're currently working on?
Yeah, so I'll give you a brief about how those have an impact on the society and then come to the research that will be easier. So there's a lot of genetic disorders we know of that affect the human race, but what my focus is.
So could you please brief about the area of research that you're currently working on and how is your research beneficial to a common man or India as a whole?
Sure. So I can say that there is a large spectrum of pediatric disorders that affect the children, but the focus that I have the highest interest in is a set of neurodevelopmental disorders. In common name, you can say early onset brain disorders that happen at least in under 5 age, or even it can start within the mother's womb. And why it is happening? Most of these are actually having a non-refractory, or again in common sense means that they cannot be treated by current medications.
Okay.
So there is a very high demand of how these can be treated.
Okay.
The only thing that is currently available is sometimes invasive surgeries.
Okay.
You may be knowing of epilepsy, or like sometimes babies have huge head and there is fluid accumulation in those heads, and then it reduces the lifetime as well as the livelihood of how long they
Yes.
survive.
Yes.
So if you have to continuously keep going for surgeries, that is cost problem, as well as there is like tension and stress among the
Yeah.
family. So this way I would say the connection with common man is. And where I come in, or my lab comes in, is we mostly don't know why this is happening. We only know that maybe if you go for a genetic counseling, which is also rare in India,
Yes.
but if you go, you may know what are the genes
Yeah.
that might be the problem.
Okay.
But we don't know how the gene is leading to the problem.
Okay.
And what can we do? Can I find out some potential new targets to identify like what is called as patient precision medicine?
Okay.
So that is the final goal, and currently what we are working on 3 different aspects of such kind of disorders. One, as I said, is brain overgrowth, like there's a huge brain in a kid.
Yeah.
The other is hydrocephalus, which is actually very common in India. Is almost as per the Hydrocephalus Association reports, it is in 1 in 12,000 of live births in India.
Okay.
Which is pretty common actually, if you consider we have a population of 1.4 billion. So although these are so common, there is no cure and not much of basic development happens in this year. There are some clinical reports that come in, but what is the fundamental reason why this is happening, why this is so common, it's very less known.
Okay.
So here my lab comes in. We kind of work in a bridge of basic, translational and clinical neuroscience.
Okay.
And this can also have a connection with hospitals as well as biopharma.
Okay. So what kind of contribution is it making to the field of science in India?
Yeah, so I would not constrict this to be only in India.
Okay.
So some of the things that we found out was there are some medications, or at least some drugs that were developed for cancer, but the same cause in other tissues such as brain is giving rise to these developmental disorders. So the repurposing of such drugs, and during my postdoc I had 2 papers in international journals that showed that we will be able to kind of treat, at least preclinically, which is in mouse models, that it can treat or reduce the severity of the disease. So I would say that if we can continue this and then finally have a collaboration with the clinical counterpart, then ultimately there's a huge potential for benefit in coming generations.
Sure. So could you brief about your past, present and future area of research?
Yeah, so as I think there will be a little repeat on this, but
That's okay.
so my past from my research field, it started with small trainings at different places as summer fellows. And then if I start from my PhD time, I worked on what is called a development of the forebrain and eye. So high eye comes into being from very early stages and what may go wrong. Then, as I said, when I go for my postdoc, then I had the liberty as well as the honor to meet patients and their families and see where the problems lie from a very direct viewpoint. Okay. And so sometimes scientists do it from a more fundamental area without having a real footing of what it affects in the society. So this actually helped me, this experience of meeting people, meeting the actual patients and families, to get an idea of how my research can have an effect. Okay. So there, these what I said about the drugs, etc., really had given me a hope. So the study that I have done, few things in very lame terms would be to identify certain genetic defects which lead to epilepsy and hydrocephalus, and how these can be attenuated or reduced in severity. And there's a specific signaling pathway which is important behind this. And currently I am doing some other molecules on that because the spectrum is very wide ranged, and we are also wanting to see which are non-genetic causes. For example, if there is an injury or infection in the womb while the mother is pregnant, then can we have the same mechanisms or preclinical trials to combat that.
So do you have any idea about where India is right now ranked in your field of research?
So very frankly speaking, clinically there have been certain paths which are at least identifying these issues, but to understand the mechanisms, we are just starting out. Okay. There are some very good laboratories of basic neurobiology that's happening, but this bridging of basic and translational and then giving back to the society for in some way or the other, we are starting out, but there's a huge potential for it.
So what are the hardships that you face in accordance with your research?
So most of the hardships currently, because again it's a good thing to ask because I'm also in a new lab, it's just a year and a half old. So I came in the post-COVID era. Okay. Which means that the funds were restricted and there were other issues about supply, delivery, etc. So the hardship mostly is financial and infrastructural, I would say. That if we get fundamental research is very important and combined with technology development. So unless fundamental research was there, there wouldn't have been any COVID vaccine. So I think more funding towards fundamental research, proper dispensation of the funds, etc., would have reduced the hardships.
Okay. So it would be helpful if you give more information about your contemporaries.
In regard to the scientists.
Yeah, scientists.
So again, these are niche areas. However, like I can, in India, if you consider my PhD advisor, Professor Shubha Tole, I can give, then Professor Janaki Sen from IIT Kanpur. These and some many others, they have been contributing for decades towards certain aspect of developmental neurobiology in India, setting up that field actually in India. At different model systems, etc. But like the specific things that I am doing here, mostly the contemporaries would be the entire development in India I haven't yet heard from.
Okay. Yeah. So what about the other countries?
So there are I have mostly used drugs which are having a repurposing repurposing of those drugs have been done. So for example, we are using an FDA approved drug which is used for eye macular degradation, which is an eye problem in old age, but we are using the same to say treat hydrocephalus. And we got good results. It's published. and we would like to continue that. So there are certain things that are already present, and we have a huge market for repurposing. But again, if we have new data from here, we can collaborate with the current biopharma, the startups that are coming up in India, and hopefully there will be some good news.
Yes. So, how are Indian industries associating with your research project?
So currently, as I said, I am new to the start of an independent laboratory. I don't have any connections, but like as I said, that there might be in near future many avenues actually where I would like to combine, mostly with the biopharmaceuticals, etc.
Here we are, signing off. Stay tuned with us to catch up on the latest science updates and learn about STEM experts